Don't you get it? I'm sick of the responsibility!
Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is all about how strange and unusual the very first issue of X-Men is that came out in 1963. Now, I knew it was going to feel a little bit dated, but I didn't know it was going to be absolutely bonkers. So today, we're going to be diving into that very first issue. But before we do, my name is Dan Frampton. Now this channel that I have over here is my fourth channel. It's normally dedicated to gaming, but today we're talking about comic books. I guess it's not that big of a leap to go from Marvel Rivals content to actual Marvel stuff. Right? Algorithm, send this video out to at least a couple people. That would be great. If you hit like and press subscribe, it would be a huge help in achieving that goal. Do you understand how much power you have? You're like a mutant out there, like the mutants we're going to talk about today in the very first issue of the X-Men. Okay, let's crack on with it.
Let it out.
First, a little bit of personal context, I guess, which is going to help dictate the narration of this whole video. But one thing you gotta know is that I'm a relatively new fan to comic books. I've never in the history of my life kept up with the weeklies or the monthly periodicals. I've had a couple trade paperbacks back in the day and a couple graphic novels, and I knew all the pop culture stuff, all the things that were cartoons, all the things that were movies, that sort of thing. But now, I am neck deep in actual comic books. So for the time being, I'm going to be calling myself a new fan until I get caught up on the history and all of the relevant story arcs. So yeah, I might make a couple flubs here and there. I might not know all of my stuff, but that's why I'm going to put up this badge right here. Sorry, new fan. So since I'm diving into the history and story arcs of these sorts of things, if we come across something that you know that I don't, please sound off down below in the comments and let me know. It's an education process. But because of how new I am to comics, that's gonna frame how strange that I found the very first issue of X-Men. Because everybody has like this common conception of what the X-Men is, or what they are. And in the first issue, yeah, that's all still there, but it's definitely not the X-Men that I know and love. The X-Men cartoon series from the 90s is what I know, and then X-Men 97 that came out a couple years ago, badass television storytelling, let me tell you. So then I started getting into reading comics, and I wanted to know all the best X-Men stories to read, so I heard that God Loves, Man Kills was great, so I read it, and it was great, I loved it. I fell in love with the X-Men during the reading of that book, and then I got caught up on the entire Dark Phoenix saga. I was like, oh, this is important storytelling. This is like a cultural touchstone over here. The X-Men aren't just mutants. They don't just have crazy superpower abilities. They're also an allegory for racism. They're also an allegory for segregation. They're also an allegory for hatred and bigotry. And their whole thing is that they protect those who hate them. And to me, that is like endlessly compelling. But the way that these stories are told, especially in the early days, were very strange. And right off the bat, at the very top of this cover, they know that it's strange because they're saying the strangest superheroes of all, but that's definitely not in the context that I'm here to tell you about today. The corner box image of Cyclops and Jean Grey is hilarious. And what I know about the X-Men is that they're called the Uncanny X-Men, but not yet. They don't even have that logo yet. They're just called the X-Men. So already we're starting at the top and I'm like, what is going on this X-Men book? Who are these people? In the sensational Fantastic Four style. Don't miss this fabulous first issue. And then we see this guy with angel wings. I then learned that this is Angel. I first discovered this Angel guy during my reading of the Dark Phoenix saga. And I was like, oh man, who's Angel? I'm gonna need to go back. Then I started thinking, who were Charles Xavier's first students, and that's what led me to this issue right here. And apparently Angel was one of them. And not only is flying one of his powers, apparently he has a bazooka. And not only does he have a bazooka, it's a bazooka with a closed end on it over here. I don't know if he's gonna do so much shooting out of this bazooka, but alright, whatever. We got Jean Grey in the background over here just doing a little dance. I don't know what sort of pose or maneuver this is. Then we see a couple of things that stuck around since day one, a couple of things I'm familiar with. Cyclops over here, even though the design is pretty strange. You got Magneto covering himself with this magnetic force field. Okay, that's normal. But I had no idea who this snowy man was with the snowballs in the front. And I couldn't wait to crack in and find out. And right away when I turned the cover, the first thing that I noticed is, oh my god, there are a lot of words here. Every single panel so dense with words. This very first panel here shows Charles Xavier just by himself in the middle of a room, in the middle of an empty room, Very weird. This was written by Stan Lee and drawn by Jack Kirby, and I think that these guys should have set up an establishing shot first, maybe without all of this writing. But now it's all, okay, this is a comic book, nerds, get to reading. So anyway, we learn who Xavier is. He's been the same guy ever since day one, you know? He's got really strong mental powers, but not really strong leg powers. He can control things with his mind, but he can't do so much walking. He uses his telepathy to summon his X-Men, and here they all come running. And this is where we all learn who they are. They all shout out their names, like they know they're in a comic book. Very interesting. Cyclops, present. Okay, good. Angel. Okay, the guy with the wings' name is Angel. That makes sense. He's the guy that retired in the Dark Phoenix saga. Cool, cool, cool. And then this is the thing that got me. This threw me for an absolute loop. I was like, who is this beefy gentleman? He comes in through the window, swinging, claiming that he's the Beast? This isn't the Beast that I know. What the hell? This is a human being over here. The Beast that I know is certainly no human being. He's a big, furry, blue, ape-like creature or whatever. That is not this guy. This guy looks a little bit simian, a little bit ape-like, but he's not quite big and blue. So already my interest is piqued. Who is this Beast guy? And to this day, I have no idea about the transformation from this Beast into the Beast that we all know from the cartoons and other comic books. Is it the same Beast? Was there a transformation? Because in this issue over here, this Beast is kind of a womanizer. This Beast is kind of a big dumb oaf. The Beast that I know is very gentle. He's very smart. He's very kind. They're completely different personalities. So I'm thinking this isn't just a character design change, it's an entire character change, but he has the exact same name. I'm not there in my history lesson yet to know how this guy turns into the guy that I know and love. But if you're watching this video, it's a miracle. If you have that information, let me know. Sound off down below. And then the snowy guy, his name is Iceman apparently. And ever since I learned about Iceman, I've come across him in other comics. I've then become acquainted with Iceman. But the name Iceman, it's very silly. Either way, these are his students. These are teenagers, by the way, right? Keep that in mind for when they take off their masks and stuff. They look like 40-year-old individuals. But anyway, they're teenagers at Charles Xavier's School for the Gifted Children or whatever it's called. And right away, you can see that they're total sycophants for Xavier. Make sure he's comfortable, blah, 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 and you get to learn their personalities. Yeah, whatever. And right off the bat, at the beginning, they have that war room or whatever they have, the battle room where they test their little abilities or whatever. So they go in there and they spend a couple pages just training. None of this is strange. Other than the fact that there is just so much dialogue, so much writing, so much talking in these action sequences where you could definitely show, not tell. You could have definitely economized a lot of panels and a lot of speech bubbles over here. But either way, we get to learn the characters, we get to learn their abilities, and we get to learn their personalities, and I think that's all done very effectively in these panels over here. Expertly even. There's just a little bit too much writing. So after they're all done training, the newest recruit is coming to the school, and the newest person, the newest student, her name is Jean Grey. I know Jean Grey is the most powerful of all X-Men. Here she is on day one. And then on this panel down here at the very bottom, these are the teenaged X-Men. Look at this gigantic suit that Beast is wearing. Do you mean to tell me that 16-year-old boys in the year 1963 were big giant dudes wearing big suits like this? I'm not sure. Cyclops over here looking like he's about to spend the day on the country club. Angel looks like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And Iceman over here, he looks like maybe a college student. Still, he's portrayed a little bit older here in these drawings than he's supposed to be in the fiction. He's supposed to be a teenager. These dudes look old as fuck. They look like they're going into business together. Very strange. And Jack Kirby, he's considered like the king. And I understand why his storytelling is very clean, for sure. He co-created and designed so many iconic characters that are still around to this day. But these 40-year-old teenagers, I don't have any excuse for. I'm sorry, Jack King Kirby. Very strange, very weird. And then you have the X-Men just like oogling and ogling over Jean Grey. She demonstrates her mental abilities and sends Beast flying because he's being too much of like a weird, creepy perv. She literally beats the crap out of him using her mind. It's great. But this is not the Beast that I know. Like, what is this line? Let me be the first to welcome you to the X-Men. Beautiful. As he's like smelling her face. What the fuck, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby? And every single panel just jam-packed with dialogue. So many words. So much writing. I'm here reading a book with pictures. Let me look at the pictures. Do the pictures. Jack Kirby's supposed to be the king of this sort of stuff. It's his fucking nickname. Let him draw the pictures. Tell the stories with pictures. It's a comic book. Why are all these words here? Anyway, I'm getting tilted. It's about to get so much more ridiculous because we're meeting Magneto. He's in a room all by himself. There's nobody for him to be talking to. Yet, speech balloon after speech balloon. These are not thought balloons. He is saying all of these words out loud. And maybe you're like, oh no, there's gonna be somebody there. Nobody is that crazy to be going on about all this sort of stuff and to be going, I, the miraculous Magneto, and then laying out his plan point by point to take over this military base with missiles and stuff using the power of his magnetism to himself. The camera pulls out a little bit. He's literally by himself over here, being like, I'm gonna make the army's weapons turn on them. Then he writes this in the clouds, surrender the base or I'll take it by force, and signs it with Magneto, using just the particles in the air, using the power of his magnetism. And then maybe you're like, no, he's not that crazy. Like, he's a bad guy, obviously, but he's not that crazy to just be going on and on and on to nobody. The camera pulls back even farther in the next panel, and here he is, clearly with nobody within earshot. They're startled. Good. The element of surprise is in my favor. He's just saying this stuff to absolutely nobody. But it's this next panel that made me want to do this entire video. This is the strangest thing ever, and I've come to know and learn that this is just a common thing in X-Men. People describing their powers, how they're going to use their powers while they're using their powers to do the thing. And they're just saying it out loud as commentary. Keep in mind, there's nobody in this room at all with Magneto, and he says the following: I'll direct my magnetic impulses into this energizer to increase their power, and then I'll leave the helpless Homo sapiens with no room for doubt. He's telling us what he's doing, where he's doing it, and what he plans to do with his power to nobody. Does he know he's a comic book character? Does he know that I'm reading this? Either way, this was a decision made by a writer, then approved by an editor, then drawn by an artist, then approved again by an editor, and then sent back out there on the presses. So yeah, he's a bad guy, he's evil, he's obviously crazy, he's talking to himself in the room. There are definitely other ways to tell the reader exactly all of this sort of stuff. But no, just like chunky, dense text. And then the next series of panels, 3 panels showing one rocket leaving a canister, accompanied with all of this text. And I will give it credit, here is a single panel without dialogue, without text, without a caption, without anything like that. Just the rocket shooting off. And Magneto makes his way to the base. He uses his power of magnetism, describing what he's doing to the people all the while he's doing it. Meanwhile, over at Charles Xavier's School for the Gifted Children or whatever, you got Jean Grey trying on her X-Men uniform for the first time, and she's really feeling herself. She's like, God damn, I look so good in this thing. My name is gonna be Marvel Girl. And at the same time she's doing this, trying this on, thinking that she's enjoying a moment of privacy to herself, the rest of the X-Men are spying on her behind this wall in the corner. Very strange, very weird, very creepy, very pervy. I don't care if it's 1963, it was a different time. That's so weird, dude. And then the next panel, they're drawn again like 40-year-old businessmen. That's just like their character designs. It's awful. I'll say it, okay? Jack Kirby, these designs of X-Men without their costumes on, they're awful. I don't care if it was 1963. I don't care if he's a legend. I don't care if he's Jack King Kirby. I don't care if every artist ever mimics what he does because they know that's what Marvel appreciates a lot. These designs of these 40-year-old teenagers are terrible. They should not have been approved at all. And then the way that they like sexualize the teenage Jean Grey, it's fucked up, man. I don't like it at all. It's way too strange. But anyway, those are our X-Men. They know that they have a job to do, so they're getting ready now to go take care of Magneto. And then over the next couple pages, they arrive at the base themselves. Then we got Cyclops telling the soldiers, hey, let us go fight these guys. And they go fight the guys. Again, just like way too much talking during the fight scene. They end up fighting for a couple more pages, all the while describing their powers as they're doing them. And then Magneto feels defeated and he needs to run away. So of course, he proclaims, you haven't defeated me yet. I can still escape you, flying by means of magnetic repulsion. I know your powers are magnetism, Magneto. if you just fly, I will assume that it's because of your magnetic repulsion. It's ridiculous. The X-Men tell the soldiers that the base is operational again. They thank each other. Dr. Xavier says good job, and roll credits. It's over. They wrap that up really quickly. Holy smokes. They really speed ran the end of that story. Like, from a storytelling structure, this first issue is paced like absolute crap. We spend 8 pages, 8 fucking pages before we even meet Jean Grey. Then 4 more pages after that before we meet the big bad of the entire franchise at this point, Magneto. 6 entire pages of Magneto describing what he's doing while he's doing it and showing up to the base. There is no beginning, middle, or end here. This is just chunk, 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 chunk. And for some reason, it takes the X-Men 3 pages just to get dressed and get to the scene. And then 6 more pages of a fight scene, and then wrapped up at the very bottom of that last 6th page in 3 panels. 3 panels! There wasn't really a lot of stakes, I guess. It was just Magneto's gonna fire off a bunch of missiles if he takes over this base. And we gotta beat him. We gotta get rid of this guy. But either way, I know it sounds like I'm making fun of it and I'm laughing at it. I do enjoy it and I appreciate the hell out of it. I have been reading a lot more of this X-Men run, but Stan Lee, I gotta say, as famous as he is, such an overrated writer. Oh my god. And from what I'm learning about him, ended up taking a lot more credit for things that he even deserved. But I don't have all my history down here yet, which is why you see this new fan badge over here. But either way, that was the first issue of X-Men, and I thought it was very strange and very weird, and had to make a video about it. Why is the Beast so fucking weird? Why is he so creepy and pervy? Why does Magneto just talk to himself incessantly? Why do they describe their powers as they're using their powers? For all the credit these guys get, I'm not sure, man. This is some pretty sloppy storytelling, but it's still pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. And of course, the characters are iconic. I love them. But I gotta say, many improvements were made to the franchise since then. 70s X-Men, badass. 80s X-Men, badass. 90s X-Men, also badass. I'm not very sure about anything after that, to be honest. I picked up this new one recently, I'm hoping that it's good. And don't even get me started on Ultimate X-Men, this shit's unreal. But that very first issue, Jesus Christ. And I think I heard that there's a rumor that the X-Men were created in response to DC's Doom Patrol, and the Doom Patrol were known as strange superheroes, so Jack Kirby and Stan Lee wanted to make the strangest superheroes. And by that metric, I gotta say, it was a success. But anyway, this was a very fun video to make, very different from what I normally do. But I am falling head over heels in love with comic books again. So much so that it's got me drawing again. I went to school for animation way back in the day and never got into comics. Like I said, I was into cartoons. But now in my older age, comic books are where it's at. I think comic books might be my favorite storytelling medium of all time. And that space was occupied by professional wrestling for the longest time. And I'm thinking now that might be replaced by comic books. I love them. I love drawing them, I love reading them, I love the history of them, I love the bad ones, I love the goofy ones, I love the dark ones, I love the silly ones. Comic books rule, bro. What can I say? This channel over here has been more of a video game channel, but I have had a couple videos about comic books on it. An entire video about Jeff the Landshark. And the name of this channel is named after Jeff the Landshark, who I love, by the way. The name of this channel is like a 3-way pun that I'm not going to explain here yet. Maybe once we get monetized, I'll explain the name of this channel. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, then there's a good chance you might like what I do on my other 3 channels. We have a whole network of channels over here. All those links down below. On the main channel, we do live streams pretty regularly, and I'd love to see some comic book fans in there. So head on over to the main channel, hit up the live streams, like, comment, subscribe, you know how it goes. Okay, goodbye, see you later, and have a good one.